With that, viewers, we shift our focus to yet another important development. China has strongly responded to US President Donald Trump's latest trade threats, calling them a typical example of double standards. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce has criticized the United States for increasing economic pressure since September and has warned that imposing high tariffs is not the correct way to engage with China. Beijing has defended its recent export controls on rare earth minerals, which are vital for electronics and military equipment. The ministry has stressed that these measures are necessary, carefully managed, and not a ban. Civilian use applications that meet regulations will be approved. It has urged the United States to correct what it has termed erroneous practices and has warned that if Washington continues down this path, China will take further measures to protect its rights and interests. The ministry has reaffirmed China's consistent position that it does not want a trade war but is not afraid to fight if necessary. This comes after Donald Trump has threatened to place an additional 100% tariff on Chinese imports from the 1st of November. This is over and above the 30% tariff already in place. Trump has also threatened to cancel a planned meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the upcoming Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea. With us on the broadcast is Andrew K.P. Leung. He's a strategist tracking the economy and politics in China, joining us from Cairo in Egypt. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. The world's largest economy is once again in an all-out trade war with the world's second largest economy. In your assessment, if this continues, how will it impact global markets?
First of all, it's not just the economies. It is a global rivalry for dominance and influence between the world's largest superpowers, the United States and China. And then the tariffs war is only part of Donald Trump's grand strategy to defeat China on multiple fronts, weaponizing American strength in the dollar, the US dollar, the world's largest economy, and technology, ideology, and also allies. So it's 360 degrees weaponization against the rise of China, of which the tariff war and the latest imposition of 100% tariffs on China in response to China's rare earth dominance is only part of the picture. Now let's look at the tariffs, because the tariffs are imposed not only on China but on Americans' allies, left, right, and center. But its main target, of course, is China's rise. In addition to tariffs, the United States has recently imposed huge shipping charges, targeting any ship made in China, not even carrying China's flag. And provided the ship is made in China, it will be subject to huge shipping tariffs when those ships call on American ports. This is, again, a strategy to strangle the China shipping industry, which, of course, is over 100 times more ships produced in China every year than the United States, 100 times. China's producing 1,000, and Americans barely producing 100. So I think that this all affects not only the economy, but also the growth of the U.S. Navy. So, and China's response recently is predicated on its newfound strength in rare earths, because these rare earths are used in all sorts of products, ranging from high technology, mobile phones, and green energy cars, but most of all in the military. As much as 78% of Americans' military requires these rare earths. Yes. So China's weaponizing that as well in response, and not only in control over its export, but also the export of this intellectual property over the rare earths developed over many years in China, because nobody wanted these processes. They're very, very dirty, highly complicated and highly interconnected in so many different fields, and no other countries has got this supply and value chain ecosystem. So over the years, China has now mastered the production processes and now weaponizing them as a counterweight against China, against the United States. So I think China, unlike many other countries, is so confident of his trump card that it's not going to yield its economic trajectory, its development rights to President Trump's coercion. Now, let's not forget, as a meeting with President Xi is concerned, let's not forget who was asking for it in the first place. It was President Trump who wanted to meet Xi just to showcase another win that he's going to manage the world's all the dynamics. But now, he's suddenly woken up to the fact that China is now blowing back. It's blowing back against his grand strategy of the shipping, huge shipping charges, of tariffs, of technological coercion, because China is now relying on its own inbuilt technology. Look at the DeepSeek, for example, in AI. And of course, even the space technology, China has successfully built its international space station right from the start. So I think that China is not unlikely to yield, and we're seeing the two countries are now confronting each other head to head. If there's no meeting with President Xi, I don't think that President Xi is too worried about it. Of course, China's economy is hit, but on the other hand, it's now pivoting to the global south. If you look at the latest statistics, China's in fact, the overall export has been growing, largely due to the expansion of its trade, export, and supply chains pivoting to the global south, which of course also suffering from Trump's no-holds-barred tariffs.
Yes.
So you can see that the dynamics are playing out, and it's not just the economy, it's a rivalry between two superpowers for global influence.
Indeed, and you've of course addressed the Chinese economy. I wanted to also bring in the US economy, because right now we're seeing Trump's tariff policies playing out, along with the fact that the US government has shut down. It's the 12th day of the shutdown, in fact. The experts are warning that what we are witnessing in the United States is a double whammy. Prices are rising due to the tariffs, and recession is also taking place. Then could we expect the Federal Reserve to reduce the interest rates in order to mitigate what could be an adverse impact?
Well, of course, the inflation is rising gradually, because in the beginning, when the tariff war was waged, the trickle-down effect was not that apparent. But over time, a lot of the costs of the tariffs are passed on to the consumers, even though the importers are absorbing a bit, the exporters in China are absorbing a bit, but not in entirety. So the trickle-down effect is now being to have an impact. Inflation is rising, but even before inflation is rising, President Trump wants the interest rates to go down. It's putting a lot of pressure on the Fed, despite its independence, so that because with low interest rates, the American economy can grow faster, and then of course it makes cheaper for big businesses. But on the other hand, the inflation is rising. Then you can't have the two at the same time. A low interest rate and a low inflation. So I think that this is a dichotomy. But as far as the exclusion of all China's products are concerned, it's virtually impossible, because China now, over the years, owing to decades of outsourcing from the United States and other Western countries, China is now the biggest manufacturer and producer and trader in the world by par excellence. And over, if you go to any supermarket in the United States or around the world, the vast majority of the products are made in China, or have China components, supply chain, logistics embedded in them. And then how can you exclude everything? I mean, you just can't find enough substitutes, even though some of the products are made in other countries, but they still rely on import of materials and components and also logistics from China, including 7 of the top 11 container ports. So I think that there's a great deal of rhetoric there. I don't think that this the meeting between President Xi and President Trump may or may not take place. But I think that the tussle is going to continue. But you can see that a lot of the dynamics are loaded against the United States because the whole industrial base has been hollowed out in the United States owing to decades of outsourcing. They don't have the manufacturing ecology. Most of the products are no longer made in the United States. Plus the fact that the costs are a huge cost differential and also to a cost and quality. Increasingly, China's products are not only cheap, but they are of high quality, as evident in the electric vehicle industry. But I don't think that President Trump would like to yield. But on the other hand, he could scale down, he could still dial down some of the rhetoric against China in due course, knowing that China is not going to yield. And then we're going to see the TACO, T-A-C-O, Trump always chickens out phenomenon once again. Whether this is effective remains to be seen in the coming weeks or months.
All right, sir. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World, sharing your analysis on what we can expect as far as the trade war between US and China is concerned. Meanwhile, viewers, we're tracking more updates. US President Donald Trump has designated Sergio Gore as the new American ambassador to India. Now, during his first visit to New Delhi, Gore met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the two discussed trade, defense technology and the growing importance of critical minerals to both nations. Gore also met Indian Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Gore has described Trump and Modi as great personal friends, while Modi has stated that he was confident that Gore's tenure would further strengthen the India-US comprehensive global strategic partnership. Listen in to what the US ambassador designate has had to say.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here today. I arrived from Washington to New Delhi early this morning, and we hit the ground running. We had a great series of meetings, including with Foreign Secretary Ministry, with the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, and with the National Security Advisor, Doval. And we just finished an incredible meeting with Prime Minister Modi, where we discussed bilateral issues, including defense, trade, technology. We also discussed the importance of critical minerals and the importance of that to both of our nations. The U.S. values its relationship with India, and under the strong leadership of President Donald J. Trump and Prime Minister Modi, I'm optimistic about the days ahead for both of our nations.
This appointment comes as Washington imposes steep tariffs amounting to 50% on most Indian exports, impacting key sectors such as textiles, jewelry and seafood. All right, viewers, due to paucity of time, this is all.